All right, and welcome guys to another episode. Hopefully, you guys are having a fantastic day, night, whenever you're watching this or listening to this. And the topic that we want to discuss today, which is what we mentioned last time, is the topic of anxiety. Now, when it comes to anxiety, there is lots of things that we could discuss, or rather, lots of information about anxiety, and I think also a lot of misinformation or perhaps misnomers when it comes to anxiety. And so, really, to start off, Dad, just want to ask, what is anxiety? Let's start there.
Very good. Now, let's talk about the chemistry a little bit. See, any kind of feelings or sensations that we have, they're aligned with neurotransmitters. Okay, so this is chemicals that the brain produces. In the case of anxiety, there is a particular chemical. I mean, that's not the only one that it helps our body, no. But I'm going to mention about one is called benzodiazepine. This is a chemical that as soon as you get exposed to a crisis, okay, as we know that when it's uncertain, normally when you have a crisis, the COVID, divorce, financial issues, or anything that has to do with sickness or potential death, it's uncertain to us. So immediately our brain, it does something that is helpful. No, it helps by the production of chemicals like norepinephrine, epinephrine, that they produce agitation. So the agitation, it leads us to actually to solve a problem, to find a solution. We need to know if it's a situation, okay, how long is it going to last this? How can I really find the right direction to kind of deal with this, and what is the outcome? So that agitation is helpful. In what the brain does immediately, it puts this chemical called benzodiazepine, make it available to our brain, so we don't get into stay with the agitation for a long time. So literally, it's avoiding to have anxiety. A little anxiety when it's something big is normal. Okay, it doesn't last long. It's seconds, maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, depends on what kind of crisis is coming up. So
but initially, it's supposed to help us push forward.
Yeah. Now, when the problem is like is a psychological condition, no. So people can feel anxiety disorder. That's different, no. So that's when we have frequently, like intense or excessive or persistent worry, or fears about, everyday situations, Often anxiety disorders, involve repeated episodes of sudden feeling of fears, In some cases, the fear is so intense that it's like a terror. That can reach to a peak within a few minutes. Okay, so those feelings of anxiety and panic interfere with daily activities. Mm-hmm. So, and now it's not about something huge. It becomes about the daily experiences or some other experiences. So they're difficult to control. We get it out of proportion to the actual danger. So there is no real danger. And this can last for time. So some people even avoid things, or situations to prevent you having these feelings. So these symptoms may start, sometime as a teenager, maybe a younger person, maybe young adult, or maybe in the older years. So anyway, so that's mainly one of the situations. So the common signs of symptoms of anxiety are if we feel nervousness for no reason. Okay. We are restless or tense. We have probably a sense of a panic, or we think it's danger. Even is with psychological ideas, heart rate could increase in some cases. Our breathing could be rapidly. We can be sweating for no reason. There is not I don't have to give a talk in front of people. It just happens for no reason. When it's worse, some trembling, or it could be feeling a weakness or feeling tired. if he's trouble concentrating, okay, or maybe thinking about anything, no. So having problems sleeping, experiencing sometimes, some gastrointestinal problems, or having difficult controlling being worried, no? Or having the urgent to avoid things. Okay, that's some of the conditions, some of the say symptoms. No, I mean we need to have all the symptoms at the same time, but it can be just few of them.
So let me ask you this then, because I hear this a lot, and I think you've probably heard this a lot as well. But oftentimes, when someone has some kind of anxiety disorder, or they get more anxious, more worried all the time, there's a tendency to say, "Oh, my boss gives me anxiety," or "This situation gives me anxiety." Now, is it accurate to say that someone or something is giving me anxiety?
It's not accurate. That's not accurate. I mean, of course, for the person that is expressing himself, that is his reality. It's a fantasy, really. No, because anxiety has to do with few things. It's the way how we perceive, how we interpret the experiences. So, if we want to understand this, we got to look into our nervous system, no, which include our brain and 150,000 extension nerves that reach every single cells. Okay, so we have our senses, we see, we hear, we touch, we smell, etc. No, so that's part of the external part of our body that brings information from the external world. Then we have the perception. Okay, the perception is that I need to be having attention to what I just been feeling. Like for example, no, if you're sitting, are you sitting in your chair?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. See, you're sitting and there is a sensation coming, but you are not aware until I tell you. How's it feel? How your legs feel sitting against the material in your chair? So that is perception. Okay. But if I say you're wearing a jacket, a sweater, normally your mind is not always attentive to that, but it happens. There's signals sent because you have a sweater through your skin and your nervous system, but there's no attention. So but if I tell you, how does it feel, that kind of material that you have in your underwear? Okay, your mind goes straight to that. So you put your attention. Okay, and that's part of the perception, but that's not all. There's not only attention. There has to be focus. So I perceive something, and I kind of narrow it down, to the focus, like a tunnel vision into one thing. Okay, if I say, "How's it feel?" Your socks against, the sole on your feet. So you put your attention, you focus, and then you can perceive. No, oh, is it like cotton? I like it, or it's itchy. Otherwise, then you won't receive it. It doesn't mean that the information is not there. It's just triggering. But what happens is, your brain can be having attention to one thing and another thing at the same time. Okay, that's wonderful because you can walk and talk at the same time to your friend. You can actually do exercise and listening to the music at the same time. Okay, that's the attention. We have two focus of attention normally, but then there is, two places of attention. But focus, we can only be focused on one thing, and that's perception. See, when you are focusing, I can be actually receive information from because somebody says something. I don't have the entire truth, but based on my thoughts and my ideas and my belief and whatever I have in my mind, I can filter the information, and I only going to focus to that one little thing, and I'm not going to see, the global information. Yeah. So that creates a problem because then, I can move myself to start with this perception, initiating thoughts. Okay. And of course, along with that come feelings. Okay, comes emotions, and from then the action. So really, it's just all on me. Okay, and of course, perhaps my boss is having problems making decisions, or my neighbor or somebody made a mistake. Hey, I do the same. I do the same in my own life, and there is no way how I can say, I'm free of transgressions. I'm not free of transgressions. Okay, I make mistakes too. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes without intention. Sometimes it's just like a reflex mistakes. I'm so used to say these things in the wrong way, so used to do things in the wrong way that I not even notice. That I just raised my voice to my son. I didn't notice that I really had repeat the same bad behavior or whatever. So that's mainly the biggest problem. So now this, somebody else is creating this sense, these feelings. That is not. I mean, somebody else could create this sensation. Yes, somebody can say something and I hear, no? But from here to inside, whatever perception and interpretation is to me. Okay. So basically, I'm the one that are living with this, and I'm going to, if I don't fix it, this is going to be something that's going to affect me on the next marriage, on the next relationship, on the next job, on the next neighborhood, with whatever I am. The sad part of this is if I don't see it, if I don't understand what's happening, I cannot escape from now this mental condition because it's going to follow me wherever I go. Okay. And it's going to create, the suffering that we normally are facing. And this is, by the way, Ulysses, this is one of the things that it is happening now. There is a pandemic going on with COVID, but it's a pandemic at the same time going on with stress and anxiety. Okay. See, that people did not pass through the beginning of the anxiety of the news of COVID, they continue because they have some other thoughts and ideas and perceptions and maps of ideas and information that actually, make them continue be in the state of anxiety or stress. No, that's a pandemic. That's not new. That's before COVID. Mm-hmm. And now we have another pandemic, which is misinformation. If I have misinformation, it's a big problem. It is like the one you just saying, no? See, I believe that my neighbor is producing anxiety, so I avoid him. Okay.
But that doesn't solve the issue.
Yeah, it's a misinformation. I don't have all the details. I create this idea. I believe it. I support it. I defend it. Okay, even though I'm suffering, but I keep doing the same thing. No, so misinformation. It can be, just on my own little world. It could be about everything. No, misinformation about mask. Misinformation about this thing, that thing. No, everything. So when our mind it doesn't have any clarity, as my senses receive information from the external world, okay, there is no way how to filter that information right. And I can continue increasing my anxiety. Some people today is suffering because there's a new president. See? And they can suffer for another 4 years along the way. Some are extremists, where the information is so bad, the misinformation is so bad, and the lack of clarity is so bad that they probably harm somebody else. Okay, some other people are not that way, but still they have misinformation. So now, I mean, this is the fact. The fact is that we here, we don't have all the truth. Nobody has all the truth, but God. So, I mean, we don't believe in God. Well, there is truth in the universe, so somewhere. So, but there is truth, and whatever is here, I don't think it's completely truth, everything, because my brain will magnify danger where there is not, or there's little, because that's a tendency, to protect me. And if I'm not aware and I'm not really controlling my mind, this anxiety will continue.
So then, not to oversimplify it, because I know there's, obviously there's, like you mentioned, there's chemicals involved, there's different processes of the brain involved. But at the root of anxiety, at least, anxiety disorders, more chronic anxiety, is going to be how we're interpreting and perceiving events and the world.
That is correct. I mean, how we interpret and we perceive.
So then I need to ask this question because I'm sure someone is going to ask it or bring it up. So what about when people say, "Oh, I'm anxious because anxiety runs in my family"? They say it's genetic. Like what? I guess can you talk about that?
That is another thing that is misinformation too. I mean, we learn things, when we're kids, we hear this from family, from aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, neighbors, teachers, media. So, and of course, when we're kids, when we're young, our brain is developing. So it's like a sponge, no? Things come in and they connect, that's called plasticity, no? The ability to map it out, the information that comes from the external world. Fortunately, okay, if we have received wrong information due to the fact that there was no clarity in the life of my siblings, family, and my neighborhood, and my classes, and my teachers, and the government, okay, and whatever it was there. So, if it was not good information, fortunately, when we start becoming adolescents, okay, our brain changes. Hormones are helping to restructure. Now, it's giving to me the chance to build my character. See, even though if you were my father, you were telling me, this is runs on the family. I probably believe you because I love you and I trust you. But these hormones, that kick in through my puberty, it restructured my brain in a way that now I will question the things that you told me. I mean, not with the sense to fight you, but because there's an opportunity through these chemicals and hormones and everything and some other neurotransmitters that have been made that it will give me the opportunity for me to kind of set my own life and my understanding to fix the wrong that's been carried through a generation. Great opportunity. Young people are amazing because of that. Okay. So now I'm here listening to you, my father, who's saying, this comes in our family. And I'm going to question it. I'm going to question that belief that even perhaps I hear and I not embrace it, but I just accept it like a sponge. And I'm going to probably ponder. I don't know about that. I'm going to say to myself, I'm not sure. Okay. And that is just a wonderful thing that happened through our life. That's why we old people have to die, no? So young people can come and clean the mess we make with our ideas and our behaviors and all these things. So young people are just, do things and actually they create new things. I mean, we all have that. I remember as a young person, I look at some behaviors in the community, my family, and I say to myself, I don't want that for my family. I mean, not that I judge my father or my mother or that I thought they were stupid. No, I say, no, I just don't want to do that. Okay. And I make a promise that I will not behave that way. Unfortunately, even though I make the decision, and I did not to follow these ideas that were not really aligned with truth. So unfortunately, later on, as I grew as a young adult, I didn't took responsibility over my own bad decisions, and I got into stress and some anxiety, and then when we become with anxiety, we may actually some of the things that are really, and the choices I make to make my life better, okay, it might be, I put it on the side, and I found myself doing some things that were actually the things that I promised I will never do again. So, and this is the dynamic of, the mind and the brain. And if we don't really pay attention and don't have control over our mind and our thoughts, we may, fall into the same pattern that I mean, not everybody do that. Unfortunately, later on, I noticed it, pain and suffering made me see that there was things I had to change, and it was harder. I mean, it could be smarter to keep on the same path that I was going as a young adult. Okay, and later as an adult, it was harder to resemble things, but it's possible. No, we can. There's plasticity, and we can make changes, and I was able to deal with the things that it was putting me with anxiety and stress and depression in some cases.
All right, Dad. Man, I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, something that I don't think that a lot of people might understand is the term plasticity. And so, could you talk a little bit about that? And because I also want to bring that up because I think there are a lot of people going back to misinformation who they think or believe that, oh, I have anxiety. That's just how I'm going to be the rest of my life. So
Okay.
can you maybe speak on that?
Yeah. Fortunately, our brain, where our mind is setting, which is, maps of information and connections and all the things from experiences and beliefs and emotions and all that stuff. Fortunately, our mind, it is run by all these connections. Okay. And we can change the structure of the brain. This is something that's been proved. It's called plasticity. See, and this doesn't mean that we're changing the anatomy of the brain. So the mind and the way how it is run through these maps, it has to do with chemicals. Chemicals that we make. Those chemicals are induce changes on highway. The brain has neurons. It's about 100 billion of them. And these neurons are running electricity and waves and also chemicals. And that information that we receive is storage, and is algorithm, systems in the brain that the information can be popped suddenly. New information can be engaging with all information. Information that's critical, that's very important, that has to do with reflexes. It has to be running to a very fast highway. Okay, like for example, walking, driving, talking. Signals to my vocal cords so I can say the words. Okay, all this is related to specific neurons, and some things like reflexes are very important because that's the way how the brain save energy. So metabolic activities are reduced. So instead of going through a process that will take a lot of energy, the brain and the body has a system where it's like driving in the highway, no? Okay, where basically it's fast and a lot of cars can go there and miles is moving. Okay, so these specific connections and highways connections, they are very well suited for those things that are important, like things that I have to do without thinking, walking. See, I don't have to go like, okay, I need to move the right foot and then the left foot and then do this and another time left foot, right foot. No, it goes through this pattern, and it is like a generator. There's a generator of this central pattern of information for the daily things. And the more that we learn something, and the more that we apply those beliefs, and the more that we do it, this new information goes into the faster highway. So that's for good or for bad. It doesn't matter if it reflects. No. So here's the thing. Fortunately, as I say, this plasticity allowed to our brain to actually kind of disconnect some of these things that were reflexive, and make it just put it in the background, no? Like if I have, let's say I start with thoughts that you are not a good kid, that you don't obey, and you are lazy. It's something that they begin with a thought, it is, neurons start creating connections. If I keep repeating those thoughts, it's going to be a circuitry call. Now, this circuitry maybe is not that strong unless I continue thinking about it. And then 10 years later, or 5 years later, or a week later, or depends on how much effort I put into that. Now, it's like if the brain is thinking, okay, it's considering, oh, this must be important. So we're going to now put this connection and this circuitry into the faster highway. So when if that happens, when I see you, I immediately going to have these emotions associated with those thoughts. I don't have to think in them anymore. I'm going to feel comfortable. I'm going to react quickly. And I'm going to be hyper focused on your mistakes every time I see you or somebody talks about you. So I don't have to do the thinking. I don't have to use a lot of energy for that. I don't have to do more metabolic work to that. And that, as I say, is for good or for bad. So with plasticity, we have the opportunity, our life, anytime, to actually disconnect the things. So that's the wonderful thing that we can do. And that will require deliberately. I have to be deliberately. It cannot be reflexive. So because our brain has this capacity to receive deliberate intentions. See, I deliberately decide that I'm gonna look into this information that it's been reflexive, like screaming at you or thinking that you're lazy. And I'm gonna observe, and then I deliberately can say, okay, I can see the result of this. It's damaged my relationship with my son. It's making me sick, mental and physically. It's making me suffer. I'm aware. And that requires for me to actually be attentive to what's happening. And then I can say, okay, this is called, the top-down attention from the top. Instead of reflexive, is the bottom up. It's automatic. This, I can say, okay, I'm going to change this. So, and there is some techniques and some practice that we have put together, through some programs that we have to help us to do this. Because in that is, see, the reflexive is so fast, okay, so quick. By the time when I think, is the emotions involved within the feelings, uncomfortable feelings, it comes along. If it's something that is making me suffer, that by then I'm trapped. I'm trapped into my mind and these emotions, and I keep doing the same thing and fighting and maybe thinking that my son is the one that gave me anxiety. Okay, and I'm gonna go to my wife and say, this kid is this, and that, or maybe I don't talk and I internally, keep suffering about this, or maybe I say to myself, using verbal things are not good. I'm a good person, good Christian. I'm not going to say nothing bad, but I'm going to keep this still inside my heart, which is the problem continues. The suffering continues. And of course, this is going to make my life difficult either way, whether I'm expressing and taking action or the actions are being promoted internally through thoughts. The damage will continue. The anxiety will resume eventually. So that's what plasticity is. Our capacity to change anything at any given time. And this is not only a philosophical belief, this is scientifically proved, this is neurobiology. Okay, these connections, because there are branches between neurons, where the information is being interchanged, and these connected to the high-speed highway. Okay, those branches, as we make changes and we have this way of observation and practices some of the things we will teach eventually to those that want it, some genes start expressing. And as this gene express, these branches start shrinking from the main highway speed, and the highway that is creating a reaction, and this reflects this action, reaction. So that's what plasticity is. And we can change on anything. It's proof. There's people that learn to play piano later in life, learn a new language. I know I have a man that, that is in my neighborhood. He learned how to speak another language. He's 82. He speaks fluent a different language. Never had learned before. We have made believe ourselves that we don't learn a language if we're older. I mean, of course, it's much easier if I'm a young kid exposed to a language, because plasticity is really fascinating. Little kids, spongy connections. I see information and it's just connected. And in us, it requires more effort, of course, but it's possible.
And I love that you mentioned how this is scientifically proven. When we say you can change, it's not pep talk. This is not a motivational rah. Yeah, you can change. This is scientifically, physiologically, neurologically, like fact. Like it's not just, we're not just trying to motivate you. This is like literal, like you can change. And so you did mention how we do have some programs that do help facilitate, do help some techniques to help facilitate those changes, because obviously this is not a rah you can change and tomorrow you're a brand new person. Also, like you said, it has to be deliberate, and we don't talk a lot about we haven't talked about a lot of the programs that we have, but could you talk about specifically, I'm thinking connection and how that helps.
Yeah, in my own experience, I found myself suffering. Okay, and I consider myself being, a good guy. No, never got in serious trouble. I make some mistakes that and I make some other mistake. I never wish I made it, but I did. And when you make your mistakes, there is issues that you have to confront. And myself, I had to confront some issues that really were, uncomfortable, and painful, and create some suffering. So when I started to learn how to deal with this, I took on my own challenges and my own pain. I took that as, okay, I can do something myself to help people. So I can, leave this world, hopefully, when I die, a little better, at least in my environment, than in the way how I was in when I came in. Okay. So with that in mind, I work with a number of doctors. We put a group of almost 100 doctors together. And we start exploring into the behavior and, trying to find the relationship with inflammation, the psychological mental state. And it was wonderful how all these doctors, contribute with a number of informations. I started interviewing a lot of people. I did, quite a few. As a matter of fact, in the last 10 years, I gathered so much information. There's been thousands of people that I personally have talked to. There's been evaluations in regard to their mental condition, their behavior. I'm not talking about people that are crazy and, with any mental situation. I'm talking about the general population. So, and I found how stress had an impact on health. And of course, then I look back on my own life. It was what it also put me in a bad shape, physically and mentally. So we work together in putting this program. And this connection is what is called the program. It's a program where the individual have the opportunity to receive information. Okay? There is an opportunity to receive a way to do it, things. Like today, we talk about the process of changing through plasticity. And that's good. That's good information. That can make us reflect and say, oh, some people might say, BS, it doesn't work. I see my grandma never changed, and my grandpa never changed, and my wife never changed. Okay. Or I see myself repeating myself mistakes. It's not truth. Well, it's okay. That's just the perception that comes through filtering in our own mind. Some other people could say, oh, interesting. And that information, it won't change anybody's life, but it's so critical and important. And that's the first step. And that's what we do with connections. We pass information to make people, be in a position of reflecting. And reflecting is, when we actually are, that's the point. This is the top down. that's when we actually are looking into our behavior, our actions, looking into our emotions. I mean, as when we explore it, like if we're an investigator trying to solve a case. So, and beside that, beside the knowledge, we also give tools. I mean, because tools are important. We need to know how to go and reach out to our capability to make changes and plasticity, because it's not an easy thing to do. Without the knowledge and the tools, it's going to be a tough thing. I mean, a positive mind, I mean, if I decide to be positive, could help me, or maybe it could get me more stressed out, maybe more anxiety, depends on my mental condition. So, and beside that, we show them how to implement. Okay. See, the implementation is the whole process. It's the knowledge. I mean, and we are aware that we all are in the different levels of conscious. So, I mean, we are not, blindsided on that, thinking that, okay, a person is going to just jump in and become a new. So that's why we did the way how we did it, understanding that, it's just a line upon line. Okay, if I come in, to this program, let's say 35 years ago. I was in a different mindset. Okay, and of course, it'll be difficult, to just put to everybody under the same, table, and expect that everybody will taste the same thing that's been placed on the table. So the process, the way we do this is just to help us to go to the point where we can actually use this ability, our ability to, from a top down, look into, and the implementations, are wonderful, and all the tools, and this is what connects us.
Awesome. And also to add a little more as to what you mentioned, it is a monthly subscription where you do receive these tools, this both information and tools every 10 days is a new section, new lesson. And yeah, to be honest, and this might be a little not self-promoting, but it is something that I have used myself, and that I consider myself kind of lucky that I get to be at kind of the forefront of the information, where I get it like right away, because I'm so involved in that in helping to create the content, helping to get it distributed, and just honestly, it's something that I am so grateful for, because that reflection part, and then also the implementation of that knowledge is something that really has just helped me to oftentimes just be more peaceful about life. And so, yeah, I honestly think it's a fantastic program.
Yeah, I'll recommend to everybody, even I myself, I listen, I pay attention, because it's so much information that we carry, as some are implicit. Well, I don't remember, but I'm sure that when I was 2 and 3, there was things that I hear, things that I hear when I was 10 and 12, I don't remember. Or some of my thoughts and my actions, I don't even remember. Or maybe I decide to hide some of these things pain that I carry, but doesn't mean they're not there. So they're going to emerge one day. So the key here is to learn how to deal, with these experiences, because life is going to put us in front of what we're afraid. That's no doubt. Life is going to put us in front of situations and events that is going to make the pain of the past emerge to the present. And that's a great opportunity to really change. And we're going to teach you how to do that, because most people don't comprehend. There is a difficulty coming, a situation, emotions arise. Some are related to the experience at the moment, but the majority are related to connected information from previous experiences. So learning how to deal with this it is basically what you told. No? You bring internal peace, regardless of if that situation has been resolved or not yet. Okay, the peace can be stay there with us as the problem is solved. If it solves here, or maybe will never be solved, and that's okay. This is what really is all about. That I can move on, okay, with my goals and my desires. Whether I obtain the success or not, I feel that it was a wonderful experience. That's the purpose.
Well, and we will go ahead and put a link, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook. We'll go ahead and put a link for those who are interested in Connection. They provide some more information and a way to sign up, to subscribe, or sign up. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, we will also put a link in the description. And I think that's going on for plenty of time today. Dad, anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
Well, there's a way how we can be happy in these times. If we choose other ways, suffering is waiting for us. No? And we don't want to do that. Life is so beautiful. There is so many wonderful opportunities. I mean, I'm not talking only about pleasure and satisfaction, which is good. No, it's a good thing to have and enjoy things of this life. But I'm talking about maintaining this sensation of happiness. The opposite is unhappiness. And of course, if we are unhappy, we're going to have to try to control everything that surrounds us. And that control, it requires too much effort. And it brings suffering because it's impossible that I can control. Okay. The only thing I can control is what's here. Okay. And if I'm here clear, then I can control some elements. I can create a better marriage as soon as I control my mind. I can create a better family. I can create other things. Maybe I can put elements together and come out with a solution for the world. A new program for computers, something. So the earth is full of things for us that we can subjugate. Okay, but in order to get there, we have to really control the only thing that we have power to control all the time, and that's our mind and the way we think. That's the thing that we have control over.
And you want to add that we can learn to control that, because I think like we mentioned before, sometimes we have the incorrect belief that we can't change, we can't control our thoughts, we can't, the anxiety or whatever it might be, the hateful thoughts, the insecure thoughts are going to last forever. That's just who I am. But like we've been saying, that's not true. Scientifically speaking, it's not true. And so I think with that, we'll wrap up, and hope you guys have a fantastic day or night whenever you're listening or watching this.
Thank you.